Okay, I think we're ready to start, Councillor Brown.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning's webinar. I'm Councillor Abby Brown. I'm leader of Stoke-on-Trent City Council. I've already done one session this morning, which was an introduction to the agreed syllabus for religious education in schools. I'm going to make sure I haven't got my scripts mixed up. As interesting as that is, I'm sure you're more interested in hearing maybe a little bit from myself, but definitely from Tim Healy, who will be joining me this morning to talk a bit about the Good Yard development in Stoke-on-Trent. As ever, and I know we're all very familiar with these events now, if you could please keep on mute. There is a chat function. Be really interested to hear people's thoughts as we go through. I'm going to talk for a little bit, and then I'm going to bring in Tim, who's going to talk through the Good Yard proposal, and we would really love to have your questions for afterwards to put to Tim around the Good Yard and anything else you'd like to ask him about that comes up in the course of the next 3/4 of an hour. We'll try and finish promptly if we can as well. So I will get things underway. Obviously, I'm Councillor Abby Brown. I've got a presentation that I think Lauren is going to put up on the screen for me now. I'm going to go through, so I'm going to have my quick Chris Whitty moment of saying, next slide, please. So I'm hopeful that you're all familiar with our Powering Up Stoke-on-Trent agenda. This is our strategy really around how we can ensure that Stoke-on-Trent continues to go from strength to strength as we re-emerge after COVID-19. I've been really impressed with what businesses have done across the city over the last 12 to 18 months in terms of adapting really to the conditions that we've had. Some of the statistics that have been coming out from the city suggest that actually we're in a really strong place moving forward. Certainly last summer when we unlocked after the first, or was it second lockdown, we saw footfall in the city centre return to one of the highest levels within the Midlands, and also spend as well return to pre-lockdown levels. We continue to see loads of really great things happening. And I know, just like everybody else, I'm driving around the city and seeing things that I haven't seen for the last 12, 18 months. There's absolutely so much going on. And I'm sure you won't have missed the news yesterday that our Spitfire came home. Our W388 arrived back into the city yesterday, has moved into its new home, and I'm really looking forward to later this year taking you all to see what's going on inside there, along with lots of other fantastic things that have been happening over the last 12 to 18 months to ensure that when we did get to this moment of unlocking, things would be just as fantastic as they were in Stoke-on-Trent. In fact, even more fantastic than they were before. Earlier this year, we launched our Stoke-on-Trent prospectus. This has been a long-held ambition of mine to do, really to pull together all the great things that are happening in our city and really to pitch it to government and a number of other external organisations around everything that's great about our small but mighty city, but also where we think the future is. We launched this earlier this year, and we followed it up recently with the City Forum, which was a great opportunity to bring together the most engaged and influential individuals across Stoke-on-Trent to talk about where we go with our plan. For those of you who've not seen the plan, you can access it on the City Council website if you look for the Stoke-on-Trent prospectus. And you'll see that it's divided into 4 main areas where I think we have general agreement that these are the things that if we can focus on, we'll start to see a continued and sustained movement of the fortunes of our fantastic city. They are transport. We've come a huge way in terms of transport, but as anybody knows who comes to Stoke-on-Trent, it's really easy to get here, not so great to get around. Economic development, again, we've done huge amounts of things to do with economic development over the last 4 to 5 years and continue to do so moving forward, but we need to continue that sustained investment around that. And I'm sure in the next few weeks, I'll be talking more about the levelling up agenda and where the city sees itself around that. But also newly on the agenda, things like education and skills, which is a massive focus for us as we come out of COVID, but actually is something that we should have on our agenda anyway. We need to increase skills levels in our city, and I'm doing a huge amount of work at the moment with our local schools and with the government around how we can work to support that. And again, hopeful to having more news in the coming weeks around our agenda for delivery around that. And finally, health and productivity, something that's become increasingly close to my heart over the last 6 to 12 months. I recently became the chair of the city's Health and Wellbeing Board, which brings together all of our partners to talk about how we can ensure that people within Stoke-on-Trent live fantastic lives. They get to benefit from everything that's brilliant about our city, green spaces, fantastic cultural opportunities, brilliant connectivity to the rest of the country, but actually start to move away from some of the things that we have struggled with: lower life expectancy, one of the lowest infant mortality rates in the country, and a preponderance still of industrial disease that affects our workforce. So one of the first things that I did once I became the chair was really expand the membership of this. For me, this isn't just about health partners, this is about all of us and what the opportunities are to work together to ensure that we can influence around things to do with health and wellbeing. So I brought on board to the Health and Wellbeing Board the Local Enterprise Partnership and also the university. And I'm keen to ensure that there's a really strong voice there around where the economy plays into this and how we can attract better businesses to our city, how we can use that to increase the levels of skill and education here within the city, and how that flows through to having better standards of housing, and how this can be a fantastic place to live for everyone. So we continue to move the prospectus forward with my MP colleagues, and a few weeks ago we had the City Forum, which I just mentioned, which was my moment, because I haven't mentioned it so far, to bring back Stoke is on the up as a hashtag. It was one that first came to attention when we were bidding for City of Culture a few years ago, and I've given it a bit of a rest over the last few years, but definitely that's where we are. We need to get back to reminding the rest of the country about what a fantastic place Stoke-on-Trent is and all the amazing things that we have going on here. One of the projects within the Stoke-on-Trent prospectus, and nothing in there, I think, if you have a read through, is new. This is just a way of bringing it all together and packaging it as one. But one that's a fairly new one, but that we've got things underway, is the Silicon Stoke agenda. And we launched the Silicon Stoke prospectus a couple of weeks ago. We did a roundtable with the Digital Minister, Matt Wall, to talk him through what we're doing at the moment. And I'm sure for anybody who's driving around the city, you will have seen VX Fibre here within the city. As it happens, they're outside my house at the moment, digging up the pavements in Mere to ensure that we continue to move forward to being the first gigabit city within the UK. Hugely exciting opportunity for us, which will open so many doors around so many different things. It includes completion of a 113-kilometre full fibre network that's been laid right across the city, with the opportunity for 5G connectivity. And that's been supported through £8.5 million worth of government funding, with an additional similar amount from the City Council. And one of the first things to emerge from that is the gaming hub, which we recently approved at Cabinet and are shortly to open on the Spode site within Stoke Town. And many of you will know Spode site has been in the City Council's ownership for just over 10 years now. Over the last 5-6 years, seen a real renaissance of that site, bringing forward a number of different things. And the gaming hub will shortly be on site as part of that there. We've also got the Full Fibre Academy at Stoke-on-Trent College, as well as a new digital academy. So things happening all the time there. These are things that not only do we have ambition to achieve, but we're actually already achieving it at the moment. Matt Woolman said when he attended our roundtable that building a first-class digital infrastructure is vital for levelling up the country, and he was thrilled that our £8.5 million investment from DCMS for a vast fibre broadband network underneath this great city will act as the springboard for Silicon Stoke. So definitely more to come on that as we move forward. Now, levelling up, I've already mentioned it, and I will have lots more to say about this, I'm sure, in the next few weeks. But we think, and we pitched as our prospectus, that Stoke-on-Trent is the national litmus test for the government's levelling up ambitions. It means a lot to us. It means bolstering high-value job opportunities for our local residents, attracting and retaining talent, working and living within our brilliant city, raising educational aspirations of our young people to aim higher and secure better paid jobs, and reaffirming the cost competitiveness of our location to attract more inward investment. And finally, demonstrating to the rest of the UK that this is where it's at, and government is serious in addressing the economic and regional disparities that has dragged our city down for far too long, despite our very best efforts together to move forward. We haven't always received our fair share of government funding, and many of you all know that despite this being my government, I'm vociferous in always standing up for the best interests of our city. And I never take it lying down when I feel that we've been dealt the raw end of a deal. However, the government is committed to levelling up places like Stoke-on-Trent, and last week, Council submitted 4 applications for the first round of the Levelling Up Fund, which provides a fantastic opportunity for the government to underline its level of commitment to the city. And I'll be working over the next few weeks and months with our local MPs to ensure that the government hears our message loud and clear about the fantastic opportunities there are to invest within Stoke-on-Trent. We'll have more detail soon over what exactly is in our Levelling Up proposals, but I think this will maybe give you a hint of some of the things that we've been looking at. Certainly the city centre regeneration area, which is something I've been championing for the last couple of years, is front and centre around this. You'll see there on the infographic that my ambition remains as big as it ever was in terms of wanting to bring to the city a multi-purpose, multifunctional, maybe it's an arena, leisure space to do fantastic things and to really put Stoke-on-Trent in the map, but also bring forward a mix of leisure opportunities, as well as continuing to ensure that we benefit from a broad mix of residential offer here within the city. Hopefully that will also continue to ensure that we drive footfall into our city centre. We're also, though, committed to investing into our other towns, hence the reference there to culture and Spode. And as I say, I'll be talking more about what is in our proposals over the next few weeks. But also, as I mentioned under the prospectus, transport is incredibly important. And as part of our Levelling Up Fund bid, we were able to put in one towards transport. So we have done just that to ensure that we are able to continue to push forward the boundaries of improving the transport infrastructure for residents across the city. There are a huge number of different opportunities coming forward, and we continue to push around how we can receive investment from the government to ensure that we have the transport infrastructure that, frankly, I feel our city deserves. We had some fantastic news a couple of weeks ago around government relocation, which has been in national headlines for a while. We have been pushing around a variety of different opportunities, and we had fantastic news that the Home Office is actually going to bring just over 500 jobs to Stoke-on-Trent over the next 5 years. And I'm really pleased. This has been a really fast-moving project, and we continue to be in discussion around the Home Office. So I'm really looking forward to welcoming them to the city in the not too distant future. Now, there's more to this than just simply transplanting people who are going to come here on a Monday and go home on a Friday. This is a committed plan by the government to bring people and actually embed those departments here within Stoke-on-Trent. And as part of the proposal for Stoke-on-Trent is something really exciting, which is around a real focus on apprenticeships. They're keen to recruit young people, our young people, to work in the Home Office, which is absolutely fantastic. What an amazing opportunity to sell to our young people that they can go on to have these amazing jobs, be part of the government, influencing what's happening nationally. I think that's just incredible, and what a powerful message that sends to young people in Stoke-on-Trent, that these jobs are absolutely within their grasp. They're also keen to encourage graduates, which again is fantastic. We have two brilliant local universities, and sadly we do lose a number of our graduates every year to go elsewhere. This will bring them the opportunity to stay here within Stoke-on-Trent. But also a real key element that I know we were so excited about with this is actually that part of this relocation will include an emphasis on cutting edge technology. They want to be totally linked into our Silicon Stoke ambition around this, which is really exciting. And clearly some of the headlines as well that have come out in recent months underline the fact that this does involve actually senior civil servants. And the number to date of senior civil servants that we understand will be moving to the city is 80. 80 people within miles of my office for me to go and pester around what I would like the government to do for us. I think that is just fantastic. And I can't wait for the opportunity to show the Home Office just how brilliant Stoke-on-Trent is. So we'll have more news on that over the next few months. One of the other parts of the Levelling Up process was the Community Renewal Fund. This is not capital, this is revenue funding to support groups to bring forward things and projects, to test out projects under those particular three headings on screen: investment in skills and local businesses, investment in communities in place, and also supporting people into employment. We were one of 100 priority places for this scheme, and we have the potential to bring in up to £3 million. We put out a call for projects, and we were absolutely overwhelmed with the quantity and the calibre of the projects that we received. So we spent a bit of time last week and the week before running through these, working out where we wanted to, and really pulling together a really strong, powerful mix of projects to go in as part of the Community Renewal Fund. But because we're Stoke-on-Trent, because I am relentless in seeking the very best opportunities for our city, we have not only put in £3 million worth of bids, we've gone for some extra ones too, because we're Stoke-on-Trent, and why shouldn't we? So I'm hopeful that at the moment, somewhere in London, our bids are being looked through, and I'm hoping that we will have really positive news in the not too distant future around this. This really plays strongly to our agenda around the Stoke-on-Trent prospectus in terms of powering up our skills, powering up our businesses, and powering up our people and communities to ensure that we are doing absolutely the best thing for our residents. Again, we'll have more details about those in the coming weeks, but it's a really exciting mix of projects that we are bringing forward from a mix of different organisations. So that's a bit of a snapshot there of what we are up to at the moment. Thank you very much for listening to me. I am the warm-up act for today's star of the show, Mr. Tim Heatley from Capital&Centric. Tim and I have been talking for quite a while about what fantastic things Capital&Centric could do if they were brave enough to come to Stoke-on-Trent. And I was absolutely delighted this year to announce that Capital&Centric will be taking their very first steps out of the north into the Midlands, and it would be into the small but mighty Stoke-on-Trent. I know that we are the envy of a great many places across the not north of England in terms of having secured Capital&Centric here, and I am absolutely delighted to see the proposals continue to emerge around the Goods Yard, which is Capital&Centric's project here within Stoke-on-Trent. So my details are up on screen. I'm Abby Brown. If you wish to contact me, please do feel free. I'd love to get out and about and meet businesses. I'll be back shortly to host the question and answer, but for now, I'm going to hand you over to Tim Heatley. Tim, over to you. She says.
Right, Tim has just phoned to say he's got some huge issues with IT at the moment. So we've got some slides. And I will try and go through, I think, the slides themselves and what I know about the scheme.
Well, if you want to, Carol, I could pick it up, and I'll try not to add anything that I would really like to see that Tim hasn't agreed to yet.
That'd be fantastic. He's still trying to get back on the call, so apologies.
So I'm sure many of you will be familiar with Tim, particularly if you watched Manctopia last summer on BBC Two, which is a fascinating insight into what's going on in Manchester at the moment, and also the ambitions of Capital&Centric, who are a social developer based in Manchester. The project that they are coming to do here within Stoke-on-Trent is called the Goods Yard, and it comprises several different elements. The first of which is the Vaults Warehouse. Tim does a fantastic job of describing this, but for anybody who's ever wandered across the bridge from Glebe Street in Stoke-on-Trent towards the station, you may have looked over to your left-hand side and seen, frankly, the world's most ugliest warehouse sat above fantastic, locally listed, vaulted warehouse. The space is absolutely amazing, and Tim and I have been and explored it several times together, and I think we always find something new in there. It's an amazing opportunity, and if you've had the pleasure of going to visit one of Capital&Centric's projects in Manchester or anywhere else in the north of England, you'll see the fantastic opportunities that they bring forward on just this type of location. Lots of opportunity there, and clearly it does open up onto the canal, and I know there's been huge amounts of interest into the opportunities that the water taxi can present for us. But obviously this is a mixed use site that we want to bring forward, and as you can see there on the graphic, that includes business accommodation, as well as a hotel and some residential offer on the site. Tim talks about this again far better than I do, clearly because it's his business, but obviously we spent a lot of time together, and I've been to visit a number of his projects in Manchester, and creating adaptable, interesting space is something that they do amazingly well. Certainly, if you've been to see the campus site in Manchester, particularly if you viewed it from Canal Street, which runs parallel to it, you'll see Capital&Centric's unique, quirky take on natural features of sites. And I think, you know, what they are looking to bring forward at the Goods Yard includes a feature entrance, maybe similar to what's on screen. Tim, I'm doing an amazing job. If it all goes wrong in politics for me, I think you should take me on to work for you. But for now, I'm going to hand over to you because you do this so much better than me. Tim, over to you.
Thank you very much. I hope you can see me or hear me. I'm not sure. I'm not sure which, but yeah, that was great. I thought I could just sit back and let you do it, Abby. I think you do a far better job than I would do. So apologies for anybody who's been hanging around waiting to turn up. So it's not a very good advert for our connectivity in Greater Manchester, is it? When I can't even get online using laptop or phone. So apologies. So yeah, as you've been hearing from Abby, so and I didn't hear the start of that, but Abby might have mentioned that we're a social impact property developer with, and that means that we want to do things that leave a positive impact on the community and the place and the space that we develop. And that's a number of things. It's converting and restoring and repurposing beautiful old buildings. It's also creating high quality jobs, long lasting jobs, not just construction jobs, but actually long lasting, high paid jobs by attracting great businesses to our projects and our developments. Because that's something that we believe that great architecture, great design, super energy efficient buildings can do. And that's a combination of new build and restoration and conversion as well. And our particular favourite is combining the two, which is what we're able to do here at the Goods Yard at Stoke as well. And so a number of the themes that you'll see that run through our previous projects and our current projects are the kind of key features around energy efficiency, conservation and preservation, exemplary architecture, and also kind of a democratic approach to it as well, whereby we don't want it to be for the exclusive use of a small number of people. We want it to be open and accessible to as many different people as possible to be able to access and use the space and use the places and hang out and enjoy it. So our aspirations for Stoke-on-Trent in the Goods Yard came about really from conversations that we've had with Abby's team, when we were chatting about what things we like to do and some of our other projects elsewhere, and also what the ambitions were for Stoke-on-Trent and Abby's ambitions and the ambitions of the team. And I think we had a lot of shared vision and a lot of shared ideas and aspirations about exciting things that you can do. And that for us is really important, that there's like an alignment and there's like a shared vision, and that's one of ambition and one of wanting to change perceptions of a location and improve perceptions or tell people how great a location is. And sometimes one of the only ways you can do that is by showing them, by creating a building and spaces and places for people to come and visit, and perhaps to stay in a hotel or perhaps to dine in a restaurant or bar. Perhaps to tap into some co-working space for a while, and actually let them know, let them pause and stop and reflect. And actually, I think
we may have lost Tim. Councillor Brown, if you don't mind coming in again, please.
Yes, absolutely. So Tim was talking about the opportunities around the restaurant, and obviously you can see the kind of artist's interpretation there. I think been describing the barrel vaulted ceilings and the opportunities here. And I think again, having visited some of Capital&Centric's projects in Manchester, it's really easy to see that kind of mixture of opportunities within these locations for people to take a bit of time to enjoy your meal or to utilise the flexible workspace, or the other opportunities within there. As Tim has mentioned, very keen to support local businesses and offer all different sorts of opportunities there. Certainly, again, in Manchester, having that pop-up barista type offer that they've got there, and it being a very casual kind of workspace for people who want to come in. And again, some really exciting ideas about maybe utilising the features of the warehouse as it is. Co-working space, again, hugely important, and again, you know, something that Capital&Centric have really made their own in the premises they've got in Manchester and elsewhere, creating fantastic opportunities for people to utilise the space that there is. And I think, you know, we touched on this greenery, again, really bringing that sense in around the sustainable elements of this. Hopefully, Tim will talk a little bit about the hotel in Manchester with all the greenery down the front of it that they are currently developing. And I know that he's very keen to link that in with the blue and green infrastructure that's really strong across the city. And of course, the water side. What a fantastic opportunity this is to create a new waterfront for us as a city. The canals are, again, you know, part of that fantastic blue and green infrastructure that we are increasingly proud of as a city. We've been working with Canal and Rivers Trust as a city for some time now. Met with them actually earlier this week to talk about opportunities there. We've done some fantastic things for anybody who's been and walked through Hanley Park just lately. You know, this again is an extension of that, really opening up that canal frontage to residents to experience you know, one of the unique features of our city in a way. So I know there's a huge amount of excitement for this, and particularly I understand the connectivity down to the Bet365 stadium at Sidaway, which I think again is a massive opportunity for us as a city. But some aerial shots here really of what's planned. Obviously, as I mentioned in my introduction really to this, that you can see there the profile of the building from the side, the excitement of the vaulted bond warehouse that really needs, you know, some architectural interest above that. And you can kind of see behind as well the new civic space that we are hoping to bring forward as part of this project, which I think is really exciting. You know, as a city, certainly over the last few years, we've really started to understand the value that civic space, I think, brings to us as a place. You know, if I reflect back over some of the great things that I've seen happening, particularly in the city centre, in the run up to City of Culture and after then as well, things like Appetite, the Big Feast, have used that space outside Hanley Town Hall to great effect. How fantastic would it be to have something similar right here, overlooking the canal, in a really exciting space that could be similarly utilised for outside events, or, you know, frankly, just as a really nice civic space for people to be able to relax and to enjoy. And of course, the added bonus of this is it's right next to the railway line. And I know that part of Tim's vision is around people coming past on the train, seeing what an amazing space this is, and being able to maybe say, do you know what, I'm going to go and have a look at Stoke. It looks really good there. Obviously, again, you know, building on top of the bonded warehouse with workspaces we've talked about as well. And if Grant can move on for me, thank you. Some leisure space as well in there. And I think, you know, some things people talk to me about often within the city are having that mixed food and beverage offer for us as a place that we see in other places. And I know that this is kind of part of the ambition of Tim to bring forward something like that here for us in Stoke-on-Trent. We are seeing a real revival around that food and beverage offer. We've seen it in the city centre. And I think, you know, if you think about it, it's really easy to think that we've had some of these outlets forever. I was telling somebody recently that in 2010, I chaired the licensing committee, and part of what they do when you chair licensing is they take you to the city centre in the early hours of the morning. Now, clearly, as a 30-year-old, I did at that point, I'd never been to the city centre at 2 o'clock in the morning. I was tucked up at home in bed by 10 o'clock. So to go around the city centre at 2 o'clock in the morning, and particularly to go to areas of the city like Piccadilly, was a very, very different experience to the one it is now. You know, it's a thriving nighttime economy there. I go with my husband, I go with my friends, I take my kids as well. You know, that wasn't where our city centre was 10 years ago, but we are starting to see that as well go into our other towns. I think particularly in Stoke Town as well, you know, we've started to see a number of small cafe bars pop up as well there. And I think, you know, this would add to that offer, again, along with what Tim was talking about before around the opportunities with the restaurant and cafe here within the building. Gosh, I hope he's coming back soon. Right, Grant, what if you can scroll down a bit further. You're going to have to go a bit further because you'll have to give me more to go on than that. Is that the end? I think we may well have reached the end there. Obviously, included on the site also, as I mentioned, is potential around a turnkey hotel, as well as some residential offer too. Now, I know one of the things that Capital&Centric are particularly well known for bringing forward is their consultation offer. If you go and have a look on their website, you can see some fantastic clips of things that have happened in other locations, most recently in Stockport. And Tim does like to tease me. He sends me little clips of when he's doing consultations in other places to whet my appetite. Literally not so long ago, he sent me a clip of a pizza place in Manchester that they've set up. Tim, I think you were back with me. Do you want to pick up the story?
Can you hear me and see me?
I can indeed.
Crikey. Yeah, I don't know how far I got on the last one, but you've done a great job, Abby, of holding forth. Brilliant. So I think you're nearly at the end as well, aren't you? So I probably should have kept quiet and let you finish.
But you do such a better job of describing it all to me. I know our audience are really keen to hear, Tim, what the sort of timescale is on the development.
Well, I think so. Is at the end? Is at the end of the presentation as well? Yeah. So I think that obviously the next thing that we need to do is to get is to consult with everybody, let everybody know what it is that we're thinking about doing, and this is part of that process. And we're going to come into the space as well and hang out in the space and invite people along as well, so that they can chat to us and have a proper conversation with us. And hopefully we'll do some interesting stuff at the same time as well during the community consultation. As you suggested, perhaps it might involve some food and drinks and music and other interesting things. And then once we've got that feedback incorporated into the proposals, we'll then submit a planning application. So that should mean, with a bit of luck, that we'll be able to commence construction certainly within the next year or so. So once we receive planning permission, assuming that we do, we then could start the detailed design process to design every single window and every single nut and bolt and piece of steel, so that we're really clear. And it's especially important with conservation listed buildings as well. There's quite a lot of work to ensure that we're protecting as much of it as we can and preserving it for future use, but whilst also enhancing it as much as possible as well, to ensure that as many people can access it and visit it and enjoy it in the future. So quite a lot of work to do between now and then, but it's a really exciting project for us and the team, and it's a real pleasure to work on it.
So I was talking a bit about campus while you were away, and and again, another fantastic mixed use development, and this is kind of really the centre point of a lot of what you do, but it's new for us in Stoke-on-Trent. What do you think the opportunities are around mixed use developments for us in Stoke-on-Trent, based on your experience?
Yeah, well, the great thing for me about Stoke-on-Trent is the existing building fabric that's there. In terms of the post-industrial city has meant that there's lots of extremely beautiful and iconic buildings that remain, and I think that the benefit that they bring is that you can really root any new development in that locality, in that community, because it's got an immediate connection back to the past, whilst also being able to look to the future with some new buildings and new development. And actually, I think what it does as well is it means that anything new that happens whilst it's next to some these beautiful ornate conservation or listed buildings means that the new build has to be even more impressive and even better to be able to stand next to an older and more ornate building. And I think that's a great thing, and it's and that brings challenges as well, of course. And what we don't want to do is compete with it in the sense that we don't want to be necessarily ornate. It might just be that you want to complement it and contrast it so that you can see the difference between the old and the new. And that exists here. I think having such a high profile location in terms of the road links and the train links and the water side as well, it means that there's lots of different eyeballs, if you like, that are looking over into this space, and that's a really good opportunity then for us to help change people's perceptions or explain to people who haven't necessarily visited Stoke-on-Trent what it's about and what momentum it's got and how it's changing and how it's probably improved significantly since perhaps they last visited. And that's why for us it's the mixture of uses and the mixture of architecture and the mixture of eras of architecture as well is a really great way to create an eclectic offer and give lots of different people lots of different reasons to visit on lots of different occasions. So that could be a cafe bar space, it could be some co-working space, it could be to stop over in a hotel, or it could be perhaps to live there in the homes that we're creating, because we're creating a couple of hundred homes. And that in itself will bring a lot of vibrancy, because there's going to be a few thousand people that live in this immediate locality. And it's a really dynamic place, isn't it? It's a really dynamic space, because you've got the university just next door to it as well, and you've got business people getting on and off the train as well. So it's a real melting pot of a location. And so that in itself will create a real vibrancy and a really exciting mix of different people in the space and around the space for different reasons. And I think the architecture to some extent will reflect that. It'll be bold, and it won't be to everybody's taste. And I think it's probably fair to say that of a lot of our developments, many of which are on the screens. And we're not trying to do kind of like a vanilla kind of a scheme that doesn't offend or impress anybody, and it's just kind of a bit blur. We're there to do something that really shouts about the history of Stoke, and shouts about the history of the Stoke-on-Trent as a city, and also celebrates that and celebrates its that industrial past, but also looks to the future as well. So I think when you see the evolved schemes and the evolved designs, I think you'll see that they're really striking. And we want that. We want it to be iconic as people drive past and people see, and make people stop and stare and reconsider what they know about Stoke-on-Trent. And it's such a fabulous location for a business to locate, for the offices, for example, because of those train links, because it's so close to get to other cities as well. So it's a great place to have a HQ, and it's a great place to go out because of the fact that it's a central and it's got the water side, and it's a really interesting place to be because of the conservation buildings as well. So it's got so much going for it, and we think that Stoke-on-Trent is on a fantastic trajectory as well as a place, as a city. It's really exciting what's already happening there, and I know that there's lots of other plans as well. And I think what we're really impressed by is not only the ambition, but actually what is already underway. So it's delivering on. It's one thing having ambition, but what's really good to see from Abby's team in Stoke-on-Trent is the fact that they're delivering on that ambition as well. They're making things happen, and it isn't easy. We've had a difficult time collectively, haven't we, with I think issues like Brexit and challenges around COVID and everything else. So it's really impressive to see things making progress and things happening. And actually, so Stoke-on-Trent, I think just a couple of years ago was in my opinion, seems to be almost at a low point and absolutely in need of growth and regeneration, and that's happening now, and so the future is really bright, which is why we wanted to invest and get involved to be part of that story and part of that journey.
I think you kind of touched on this a little bit, Tim, and certainly one of the questions is around kind of the importance of the location there. I'm really proud of the fact that we are a HS2 connected city. Our station, has had huge numbers of commuters come through it in recent years, and obviously I'm hopeful that we will start to return to that level and continue to champion the importance of our rail connectivity. But I did mention earlier that you talked to me before about that kind of the eyes on the space. How important is that in terms of that location there, where it's bisecting all those different modes of transport?
Yeah, it's really a great. It's like a big billboard, isn't it, for Stoke-on-Trent? I think. To say, look at what's happening and look and get off here at this stop and have a mooch around, and and therefore it's really important that what we do is, in terms of the public realm and the landscaping, is really interesting. But not only that, but you've got a dynamic and changing offer. That the things that go on in that space, in that open space and some of the covered spaces, rotates and revolves. And we've learned a lot from our other projects and developments that around meanwhile uses and pop-up events and interesting activities that which can be a great platform to work with local independent businesses in and around Stoke-on-Trent, to say to them, come here, we've got space for you to try out some of your business ideas, and that could be a new food and beverage offer, or it could be a new product or a new service. And that's really important to us. And that rotating space and that rotating offer to people is another reason for people to constantly come back and revisit. And I think it just creates a really interesting, a really interesting environment. And Capital&Centric are known for our quirky spaces and our quirky operators. And to be able to offer a good and fun and interesting space to be for a really broad demographic as well, and that's really important. We want it to be as varied as possible in terms of the people that are in that space, and so we're trying to make sure that we've got something for everybody, from families, but through to older people perhaps who might want to even live there or go out there, and also we've got students on the doorstep as well. So I think that the opportunity, therefore, by being such a high-profile space, it's ripe, isn't it, to be able to say to people, yeah, hop off, get a coffee, and perhaps then wander off into other parts of the city as well, and see, explore what else Stoke-on-Trent's got to offer.
And you've talked about kind of the accessibility of this for all different sorts of organisations, but I think one of the things that you and I have spent quite a lot of time talking about, certainly, well, I think pretty much through the entire time we've known each other, is actually about the other things that go on beyond the site. So your involvement with the Mayor of Greater Manchester's charity, Rebrainery. So there is so much more to this, isn't there? Because I think it'd be really. I know you are fantastic, and we get on like a house on fire, and you're just the sort of person who should move to Stoke-on-Trent. But that people could just think, well, this guy's coming from Manchester. This is a great opportunity. He's going to make a load of cash and he's going to go. But actually, there is so much more to your operation than just that, isn't there? And I'm kind of leading you on here to give us a bit of a flavour about some of the stuff that I know Tim Heatley does, that he does talk about, but I'm going to give him a bit of a nudge to talk about in terms of the homelessness engagement that you do, Rebrainery with young people, and generally, what Capital&Centric is about. Yeah,
thanks, Abby. Yeah, look, on the basis that Stoke-on-Trent's clearly got a much better internet connectivity than we've got in Greater Manchester, I'm sold. It's not a very good advert for it, is it? The fact that I could barely get a connection good enough to get online. I think the other things that we do all around bricks and mortar. I mean, property isn't for us. It isn't about bricks and mortar. It's about people and understanding people and human behaviour, but also the challenges that people face. And property developers, I think, have a responsibility and are in a unique position to be able to assist and improve people's quality of lives. And for us, that's good. That's good for business if we are helping to develop a healthier, better, an improving city. Then that's great for business, because that means that's an improving population that we can continue to create new spaces for people to live and to work and to hang out. So what I'm saying is I'm not. It's a great thing you can do. It's the right thing to do, but also. What we try to do is explain to other businesses to get behind it. It's good for business as well, and so everybody can benefit. And so we have various initiatives where we'll try and Regeneration Brainery is a really good example. Regeneration Brainery is a non-profit that we started in 2017 to get diverse and disadvantaged young adults into the built environment sector, because the sector is huge and it's a huge employer. And often, if you're interested in the built environment, you get directed to construction. But actually, the disciplines are vast and the skill set is huge. So, and that could be, if you want to be involved in the regeneration property, the built environment sector, you could be in, graphic art and design. We Capital&Centric employ 2 or 3 people, full-time graphic art and design people. You could be interior design. You could be landscape architecture. You could be engineering. You could be architecture. So the spectrum of job roles is massive, and we want to. And it's a great social mobiliser as well, because it's often they're often quite well-paid roles as well. So we realised actually that the built environment sector often there's a lot of nepotism. So a lot of people work in the industry because their dad or their uncle or what have you was in that sector. And we thought actually to make our sector more resilient and more relevant. A great thing to do would be to just go out there and try and mix up the demographic really, and that's grown really quickly as it's kind of an academy. We're there to inspire, not to educate people, and we're there to create connections for people. So we crowdsource mentors, big hitters from the industry, to come along and help and support these young adults and encourage them to be great at whatever it is they choose, and even better if they choose property as their chosen profession. And because it was in 2017, we've now started to see that our first cohorts come back into the industry, having gone off and studied in higher education, or they've gone and started in work in the built environment sector, and that's really rewarding. And we work with over 100 young adults every year, and we've expanded out of. We started in Manchester as a test bed, but we've now expanded it into other cities, and we're going to be bringing it to Stoke-on-Trent, of course, as well. And that's really a really rewarding process for us to see. But yeah, other things that we do is typically we won't sell to fractional. We don't sell our developments fractionally to buy-to-let investors who may be less interested in the improvement of the area as we might be, or as an owner-occupier might be. So we tend to either keep a project under one single ownership, where our ownership is kind of very much vested interest in terms of ensuring that project is successful, and the community that live in and around it is a successful community. Or we sell them to owner-occupiers who are going to live there themselves and look after it, and be kind of incredibly, they're going to want the area to improve, because that's the single big investment that they've made in terms of buying that property. So, and then in terms of homelessness, yeah, we've done various homelessness initiatives as a property developer. We've repurposed a former tour bus into a homeless shelter that provided 14 beds a night off the streets, which is about 3,500 nights a year off the streets for the people that are experiencing homelessness. And that has evolved. Obviously, that wasn't COVID safe once COVID kicked in, so we've had to evolve that model. And we're now evolving that into a project which is going to provide 40 own front door, one bedroom homes in the city centre of Manchester. And again, obviously not for profit exercise. But that's the big project. And I founded and chair the Greater Manchester Mayor's Charity. Our mayor in Greater Manchester is Andy Burnham. And Greater Manchester has had a big problem with homelessness, a huge issue. And so we've raised over the past 3 years about in excess of £3 million to alleviate and reduce homelessness. And I know that so Abby and I kind of had that shared interest because of the work that Abby's done in and around homelessness as well. A similar project, I know, at is it called the Macari Centre? Is that I pronounced that correctly?
It is, yeah.
So yeah, those are so it's great when we have that shared view and vision of I wanted to try new things as well, because we're absolutely not perfect, and some things that we do we will fail at, but the trick is not to give up and to adjust it and tweak it and try again. And we're not afraid. I mean, it's an unusual area for a property developer to get involved in homelessness in some ways, but actually in other ways it's a really good fit, because again, I think it's we have the ability to make a location or a city a better place than it was when we found it. And so that is good for us, because that means that we'll have an audience in the future to go and create new places and spaces for as well. So things that we're considering how we incorporate some of those elements, for example, into the goods yard are, well, how can we look at physical well-being? So can we incorporate a running track? Can we incorporate exercise and equipment? Or actually, can we ensure that we're providing space and a service for people who might live and work here that can access physical exercise and training? And so we do that elsewhere in our other projects, whereby it could be simple things like where you could provide a yoga mat, or where you can provide some free weight space, or perhaps is there if there's a sprinting location, is there a timer to encourage people to race each other? And so those sorts of things are great ways of thinking about physical well-being, but also mental well-being as well. So green space and private space as well for contemplation and reflection. And of course, the physical well-being is so closely linked to mental well-being as well. So those are factors that we think that we can assist with by designing things in such a way that enable people to have a more comfortable working or living space. And we think that will assist and help to improve people's physical and mental health as well. So there's lots of considerations and lots of different things that we can do to really ensure that we're contributing positively towards that creating an ongoing thriving community here.
That's fantastic. Thanks very much, Tim. Now, you won't believe this, but often people say that I'm perhaps not too much to the point in some of the things that I ask. And I know some of the questions in here probably require me to be a bit blunter than maybe I normally am. Now, Stoke-on-Trent is fantastic, but we are quite self-deprecating as an area. And often, you know, my experience has been that it takes sometimes a little bit of a nudge for people to think that this is actually for them. So when you talk about the opportunities being there for businesses to come and try things, sometimes, I think people in Stoke-on-Trent think, well, that's really great, but he doesn't really mean people like me. He means his mates who are able to pay loads of money, who've got 15 outlets in Manchester and stuff like that. Be blunt, Tim. Tell us when you're saying, you know, we're interested in people coming and doing pop-up stuff. You you really mean that, don't you?
Yeah, it's got to be very much Stoke-on-Trent. That's what it's got. We need to really root it in the city. That's what's going to make it successful. Because what's the point in creating a carbon copy of a different part of the city, or a different city? There's no use whatsoever. Now, so for us, we really do want to make sure that we've got, and we're all ears, and we want to ensure that we know who the most interesting and most quirky and best operators are in Stoke-on-Trent, and let's help to elevate them and help ensure that we've got a platform that's plug and play for them. Really, that's what we are good at. And actually, in instances elsewhere, and it has happened whereby we haven't had the feedback or the response or any encouragement from indie operators, we've done it ourselves. And so rather than import a Costa coffee, which is our worst nightmare in some ways, because it's just carbon copy city stuff. We've opened a cafe bar ourselves and actually got it operational. And as Abby mentioned earlier, I heard that recently, about 6 months ago, we opened a pizza place in Manchester. It's in some former MOT buildings, and it's very rough and ready, but it's great food, great service, great atmosphere, and we're booked up there for many months in advance. And we'll do that. If somebody else isn't going to do that, we'll do it, and hope that then eventually we can hand that over to one of the local independent operators, because that's the much better experience. We find owner-operated businesses. When the person that's running that cafe bar, for example, is their mortgage is dependent upon that being a success, then the service that you get and the experience that you get in that space is far better than somebody who is part of a huge multinational company that's serving you. So that's that extra bit of fizz that we're after. That's that extra special treatment that we want to get. So we absolutely really want to ensure that we've got independent and local operators, and that means for us making it easy for them. So that means us making it really affordable for them to do, and making it really easy for them to move into. And we say, look, if you do really well, then we want to do really well too, and that's how it will work. So we're not expecting you to turn up and pay an enormously high, eye-watering rent, and then spend a fortune to fit out a space and create a space. We can help with that. We can do a lot of that with you, for you. And if you do super duper well, then understandably, then at that point, then we'll say, well, okay, well now you can afford to pay us some rent, but not until that point. And I think that's the way that we'll really create an interesting and quirky, diverse, eclectic kind of series of spaces. So really keen to hear from ideas from who the best potential operators could be, or who the best operators already are, and let's help to continue to elevate and grow them, because we'd really much rather do that than have to do it ourselves. So yeah, I think that other people are better than we are, so it'd be great to bring new people in.
That's fantastic. Although I'm sure, to be honest, you probably do a mean pizza, I suspect.
Yeah, you can try it. Check out Ramona. If anybody wants to have a look online, see what we do. Ramona, Ramona, in Manchester, and get a bit of a vibe.
So we're coming to the end now, Tim, and I've had lots of questions, but I guess really the most important one, perhaps, and you've already kind of said this, but I guess kind of just to repeat it, is when does this kind of all start? I know we're talking about having the community consultation, and I know that you're actually secretly out and about across the city quite a lot, and you have been anyway for quite a long time. You've been telling me about places you've been going to, but when are we going to actually start to see kind of that physical presence, and when are we likely to see the community consultation, just so people can think to look for it?
Yeah, I think we're looking at the next year. You'll start to see a physical presence in terms of some of our some of our our team being there and our spaces popping up and some of our interactions, you'll start to notice over the next 2 or 3 months, I think. Yeah, we're really excited, and we've got some weird and wonderful things planned. So we can't wait to get stuck in. And then in terms of construction activity, you know, I'd look at 12, you know, 12 to 18 months, I think, in terms of major construction activity where wagons roll.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today, Tim. We really appreciate it. And I know that people will be able to hear lots more from you in the coming months. Now, before everybody goes, I'm just going to quickly hand over to Caroline.
Okay. Okay, so just as head of Make It Stoke-on-Trent in Staffordshire, could I just thank Councillor Brown and Tim Heatley for taking part in the webinar today. It's been really interesting. Fantastic to have companies like Capital&Centric now wanting to invest in the city. And Councillor Brown has talked about some large-scale initiatives and plans for the city, which is really exciting and I think game-changing if everything that we plan to do, you know, delivers. Just to let you also know that the next Make It property event, which we hope to be physical, is going to be planned for the 21st of September. That's going to be held at Hilton Hotel at Smithfield. And this will be an opportunity also to showcase the new enterprise space that's being created in the ground floor of the Clayworks, which is actually a private residential scheme in Smithfield. So if you've got any further questions for Councillor Brown or Tim, obviously we've had a few technical issues today, which can't be helped, but I'm glad Tim managed to get back on the call. Please let us know and we can circulate any details that might be requested. Or Tim, I've probably been working really closely with your team and actually in terms of the community and stakeholder engagement event, that is actually planned to take place at the Goods Yard site on the 11th and 12th of September. So anybody interested could go along to that event. So again, if you want any details about that, please contact the Make It team and we can pass those on to you. But finally, just thank you so much for everybody for attending the event today. Very much appreciated, and I hope you've enjoyed the discussion and the Q&A. Thank you very much.